Hello and welcome to a new episode of Around the World in 7 Days. My name is Neel and I am here with the stories behind the 3 most important international news events of the week. First of all, we will discuss the diplomatic tug of war between China and Taiwan currently being played out in Central America and how China seems to have outplayed its rival. Then we will discuss the story of a price rise in CNG that ultimately led to downfall of an authoritarian government. In the end, we will decode why the African country of Mali has been prone to military coups and why it has also left the European countries tense this time. But first, let's begin with China, Taiwan and Nicaragua. We are all aware of decades-old tensions between China and Taiwan. On the one hand, China claims Taiwan as a part of its territory, while on the other hand, Taiwan considers itself as an independent country. But in this game of supremacy, China seems to be having an upper hand. At the time when America has publicly warned China against messing with Taiwan's security, China gave a big blow to the US in its own home turf. China has succeeded in persuading Nicaragua, the Latin American country located in the American influence territory, to support the One China policy. To mark this shift, Nicaragua first severed its diplomatic ties with Taiwan and then allotted land to China in Nicaragua for establishing the Chinese embassy. However, this is not the first instance when Nicaragua has severed its ties with Taiwan and established ties with China. Neel Ortega, president of Nicaragua, who first came to power in 1979, had established ties with China in 1985. But when there was a change in power, then Nicaragua and Taiwan established diplomatic ties again. Now, Neel Ortega, who has been at helm since 2007, has once again severed ties with Taiwan and has established them with China. It should be noted that it was only after the United States recognized China in 1971 that most of the countries which had diplomatic ties with Taiwan abandoned it. Since then, a struggle has been going on between China and Taiwan to gain global recognition as the real China. And now, even the handful remaining allies of Taiwan are severing ties with the nation. China's act of luring allies of Taiwan by offering financial aid is being called money diplomacy. So today we will try to understand the whole story in detail. We will also try to comprehend the nuances of the ongoing diplomatic tug of war between China and Taiwan. We will also analyze the reasons behind Ortega severing ties with Taiwan in 2021 after his return to power in 2007. Besides, we will also learn about money diplomacy. Let us first look at Nicaragua's map. Nicaragua is a Central American country. It is surrounded by Honduras to the north and northwest, the Pacific Ocean to the west, Costa Rica to the south, and the Caribbean Sea to the east. The capital of Nicaragua is Managua, which is located in its southwest. Neel Ortega's inclination towards China is not a new phenomenon. Ortega has been a follower of the communist ideology and China is governed by the Communist Party of China. Hence, Nicaragua has described its inclination towards China as ideological affinity. Also, this has been a factor behind Nicaragua's unpleasant relations with the US as well. After the Nicaraguan Revolution of 1970s, the government of the then President Somoza collapsed. The reins of power came into Neel Ortega's hands in 1979. When Ortega came to power once again in 1985, he extended a hand of friendship towards China by severing diplomatic ties with Taiwan. As a result, diplomatic ties were established between Nicaragua and China. However, Ortega was defeated in the presidential elections held in 1990 and Violeta Chamorro became the Nicaraguan president. After coming to power, Violeta severed ties with China and re-established ties with Taiwan. Since then, Nicaragua has recognized Taiwan only. However, when Ortega returned to power in 2007, he decided to maintain ties with both Taiwan and China. But China did not agree to this arrangement. China remained adamant that it could not establish diplomatic ties with Nicaragua until Ortega severed diplomatic ties with Taiwan. Nicaragua nevertheless ignored this demand of China until now. Now you must be wondering about what prompted Nicaragua to change its stance and prioritize China over Taiwan. Actually, the recently held presidential elections held in November 2021, Ortega was accused of winning by rigging the elections. The major reason behind this accusation was that 40 opposition leaders, including 7 presidential candidates, were arrested before the election. As a result, not a single candidate was in fray to compete with Ortega. So, the US and the European Union asked Ortega to hold a re-election. They warned Ortega of harsh economic sanctions on Nicaragua in case he failed to comply. Under fire from the West, Ortega needed a strong alliance partner to mitigate the potential effects of the economic sanctions. On the other hand, China has been trying hard for the past several decades to bring the countries that still have diplomatic ties with Taiwan into its fold. In the Central American region, China has already brought Panama and Costa Rica into its fold. In the 1990s, there were 30 countries that preferred Taiwan over China. In 2017, the number dropped to 19, and prior to Nicaragua severing its ties, 15 countries had diplomatic ties with Taiwan. Apart from the Caribbean and the Pacific, China was luring Taiwan-friendly regions in the Central America too. Under these circumstances, Nicaragua felt that it too may become isolated like Taiwan one day. The reason behind Nicaragua's fear is that Taiwan is visible in only a handful of global forums and has been an isolated country since the 1970s. Taiwan is only a member of forums such as World Trade Organization and Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, where it is not required that a country must be recognized to become a member. In fact, after recognizing China, Nicaragua will also join the larger group among the countries of the world that recognize China. Another factor is that at present China is one of the economic superpowers of the world. It is always ready to provide developmental aid, loans, and other incentives to its allies. According to media reports, China has provided 1 million corona vaccine doses to Nicaragua at no cost. For all these reasons, Nicaraguan government has given preference to China over Taiwan and has severed its decades-old ties with Taiwan. Lastly, let's understand what is money diplomacy. As I have already told you that in the 1990s, about 30 countries had ties with Taiwan. Most of these countries were South and Central American, Caribbean, Pacific, and African countries. But now this number has come down to 14. The reason for this is that there was a competition between China and Taiwan since the very beginning to exert their influence on these countries. Like Nicaragua, the Gambia, Liberia, and St. Lucia have sometimes maintained diplomatic ties with China and sometimes with Taiwan. China is said to have been consistently luring the allies of Taiwan by offering them trade and developmental aid. Not only this, China also tempts these countries by offering grants worth billions of dollars. This has been made possible by Chinese economic heft. China's trick of gaining favor of small countries by luring them with money is known as money diplomacy. However, one must still keep an eye on the outcome of China-Taiwan rivalry in this region and the international political stand on this issue in near future. Freedom to express dissent against the government is among the foundational stones of a democratic system. Many governments across the world have fallen due to popular protests. If we tell you that a popular protest emerged and a government collapsed as a result of a rise in CNG prices, would you believe it? This has happened in the Central Asian country of Kazakhstan, where the government decided to raise the prices of CNG. In response, protests emerged and they gradually became so widespread that the government's Council of Ministers had to resign. Subsequently, the president of the country declared a state of emergency. It is noteworthy that this Muslim-majority country does not have a history of popular protests. So what exactly happened this time so as to cause resignation of a government becomes even more intriguing. Let us discuss this issue in detail. We will try to know how important CNG is for the citizens of this country, and we will also deal with the question that whether the real reason for this protest was the rise in CNG prices or there is more to the matter. However, let us first look at the geographical location of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a country located in Central Asia. It is bordered by Russia to the north and west, China to the east, and Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan to the south. Nur Sultan is its capital city. It is the largest landlocked country in the world and 9th largest country in terms of area. Although Kazakhstan shares its western border with the Caspian Sea, the sea itself being a landlocked water body does not provide any access to wider seaborne trade routes. Hence, in absence of any opportunity for extensive maritime trade, it is called a landlocked country. Kazakhstan is considered a very rich country in terms of oil and gas, which forms the foundation of its economy. In fact, most of the vehicles here run on CNG, that is compressed natural gas. In such a situation, CNG has become a basic need of people in this country. Till now, CNG prices were controlled by the government. Subsidized gas was given to the people all over the country. But as soon as the new year began, the government changed its policy and ended its control on CNG prices. Actually, it was in 2019 that the government talked about bringing changes in the electronic trading of CNG in a phased manner. Under this change, the subsidy given to domestic fuel consumers was to be phased out and the market was to be given the power to determine the price. But this policy of government unleashed inflation, which made the people of Kazakhstan angry. In the provinces where the demand for CNG was higher, the rise in prices was also more. This is exactly what happened in the western Mangistau region of Kazakhstan. The government estimates that 70 to 90% of vehicles in this region run on CNG. This is much higher in comparison to other parts of Kazakhstan. Before the new rule, 60 tenge had to be paid for 1 liter of gas. Tenge is the currency of this country. But its price has now gone to 120 tenge per liter, which is twice dearer than before. So angry people opened a front against the government. In the largest cities of Almaty and western Mangistau, people gathered in the streets and the demonstrations became widespread as well as violent. Prime Minister Askar Mamin resigned when the demonstrators did not agree, even after a lot of convincing. Deputy Prime Minister Alihan Smilov has been made the country's officiating Prime Minister. The president has declared a state of emergency for 2 weeks. The question that arises is, are the increased gas prices only reason behind this protest? The answer is no. In fact, Mangistau province, which sparked protests, is located in the southwest of the country, and this region of Kazakhstan is considered rich in oil and gas. But despite this, the quality of life of the common people here is not very good. One major reason for this is that this region is plagued by vast income disparity. In 2011, during the protests by oil workers in Mangistau, 14 protesters were killed in police action. The reasons behind this protest were low wages and the poor condition of the workers. Except in the capital and major cities, the condition of roads is poor, the level of public facilities is low, and the food items are expensive. On the other hand, most elections in Kazakhstan are won by the ruling party with almost 100% votes and no effective political opposition. But when President Nursultan Nazarbayev, who was in power for nearly 30 years, left the chair in 2019, it was seen to be prompted by dissatisfaction among the people. However, it is also true that Kazakhstan has not seen any significant protests since its separation from Soviet Union in 1991. Though this does not mean that the people here have not been angry. Actually, this country is not only rich in terms of gas and oil, but in terms of uranium production as well. It is the second largest producer after Australia. But people in many parts of the country are still leading a poor lifestyle. Above all, the doubling of cost of basic items like gas added fuel to the fire. Overall, the government of Kazakhstan tried to undermine its people, and the result is in front of all of us. The incidence of legitimate democratic governments being toppled by military regimes is not a phenomena unheard of in global politics. In fact, there are countries which have had an unfortunate history of multiple coups and military takeovers. The African country of Mali is one such example. So far, 5 coups have taken place in Mali, including the most recent one in 2020. Now the update is that it may take another 5 years for the people of Mali to get a democratic government. Assimi Goïta, the chief of current military government, has announced to postpone the elections for 5 years, citing security issues. However, the opposition has called it a violation of the agreement that was reached when the transitional government was formed in 2020. As per that agreement, elections were to be held in Mali by February 2022, and till then, an interim government was supposed to function as a stopgap arrangement. But the army has backtracked from its promise. As a result, the political crisis in Mali has deepened further. The repeated coups in Mali have not only worsened the country's political health, but has also impoverished this country, which is otherwise rich in cotton and gold. Today we will discuss the background of the unfortunate modern history of Mali. You will get to know why the country has been afflicted by frequent coups. We will talk about the current situation in Mali, and at the same time we will also try to understand the damage that Mali's instability can cause to the surrounding countries. First of all, let us know exactly where Mali is and what all surrounds it. Mali is a landlocked country in West Africa. It is bordered by Algeria, Mauritania, Senegal, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Its capital is Bamako, which is located in the southwest. Mali, a French colony for decades, became independent in 1960s. Modibo Keita became its president at that time. However, due to deteriorating financial conditions, Keita could not handle Mali. So in 1968, Mali witnessed a military coup for the first time. A dictatorial government was formed in Mali under the leadership of Moussa Traoré, which ruled for more than 2 decades. However, during this period, many groups supporting democracy were formed across Mali. Around 1990, the government and these groups clashed, and there were massive protests in the capital city of Mali, Bamako. In such conditions, the army again staged a coup in 1991, and there was a change of government. Mali tasted democracy in 1992 when the first democratic and multi-party presidential elections were contested. Alpha Omar Konar became the president of Mali. But in 2012, Mali's democracy was shelved and there was a coup again. Actually, there is a nomadic group in the northern region of Mali. The name of this group is Tuareg. In 2012, this group launched a rebellion against the government of Mali. This group also announced the creation of a separate country in the northern Mali. At the same time, extremist groups such as Ansar al-Din had launched a campaign to make Mali an Islamic state. Overall, there was an atmosphere of anarchy in the country. Seeing the situation deteriorating, the army ousted President Amadi Toumani from power and took command. However, only a few days later, the army established a civilian government. Overall, by this time, Mali began to struggle with problems like corruption, conservatism, weak public services, and communal violence. Discontent started spreading among the Mali population. All of it had been simmering beneath the surface when the pandemic struck and all the tensions came out in the open. In July 2020, mass protests erupted across Mali, brushing aside concerns about the coronavirus epidemic. People were demanding the resignation of the then president Ibrahim Boubacar Keita. Seeing the situation of turmoil, the army revolted against the prime minister and the president. In August 2020, soldiers took President Keita and Prime Minister Boubo Cisse hostage. However, a few days later, the army formed a transitional government with the promise that elections would be held democratically in 2022. Ba Endao was made the president and Mokhtar Ouane was chosen as the prime minister. But in May 2021 itself, the army again staged a coup and seized power. Now the same army-led government is talking about holding elections after 5 years instead of holding elections in February. The moot question remains that what is at the root of so many problems in Mali? Historically, Mali has been a largely peaceful country. However, from 2011-12 onwards, extremist activities started increasing in Mali. In particular, northern Mali has become a haven for many extremist groups. Some of these are believed to be related to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group. These extremist organizations extend to the neighboring countries of Niger, Burkina Faso, Chad, and Mauritania. The whole matter is also related to the feeling of discontent among different groups here. Actually, the southwest region of Mali is rich in cotton and gold, which the northern region does not benefit from. Hence, the northern part is economically weak. This is the reason why there is a demand for a separate and independent country in the northern part. Due to all these extremist activities, the political crisis deepened in Mali in 2012, and then, as we had discussed, there was a coup. Also, in 2011, when there was a rebellion against Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, fighters of the Tuareg nomads from northern Mali went to Libya to fight for Gaddafi. Gaddafi provided Islamists and separatists with high-tech and modern-day weapons. Further radicalized and armed, when these fighters returned to Mali, they started a movement called People's Movement for the Liberation of Azawad and started demanding a new country. It was from here that a new violent period began in Mali. Attacks by individual extremist groups against civilians and security forces became a frequent phenomenon. Experts believe that now Mali is at the cusp of a long period of instability that will not be limited to the country but will affect the whole region of West Africa. And this fire will not stay limited to Africa but will also reach Europe. If you look at the map closely, there are countries like Algeria and Morocco above Mali. Just above them, Europe begins with countries like Spain and Portugal. Therefore, it is believed that the increased radicalization and violence in this region of Africa will give rise to a chain of events that will ultimately reach Europe and cause damage to many European countries as well. The UN peacekeeping force is in Mali and is trying to deal with extremists to establish peace. But it will remain to be seen how much longer Mali will have to wait till a lasting peace is finally established in the country. Now let us have a look at practice questions based on the 3 stories of today's bulletin. 1. China is gradually luring Taiwan's allies by offering them financial aid. Comment. 2. Underlining the irony of Kazakhstan's resources of oil and gas, discuss the reasons behind discontent among the people of this country. 3. What are the root causes of repeated coups in the African country of Mali? What can be the potential ramifications of this issue on Europe? Discuss. That is all for this week's Around the World in 7 days. I will be back next week with new stories behind the events which continue to shape the world around us. Stay tuned.